Welcome to Spread Love in Organizations, the healthcare leadership podcast where we explore leadership with purpose. I'm Naji, your host, joined today by a dear friend, Dr. Basil Upton. Basil is a purpose-driven, transformational and servant leader dedicated to helping others reach their potential. He's entering his 24th year with Eli Lilly, where he is an executive business director. His teams have consistently exceeded performance expectations for numerous years. I can testify on that. And Basil's work accomplishments include Business Director of the Year, Elite Coach, Platinum Performer, and recipient of several coaching awards. In the summer of 2024, Basil graduated from Marymount University with a doctoral degree in educational leadership and organizational innovation. He studied how a supervisor's leadership style affects the engagement of pharmaceutical sales professionals during periods of varied sales performance. My friend Basil, it's so good to have you with me today and see you again.
This is an honor, Dr. Gehchan. I've waited a long time for this. This has been the journey of Spread Love in Organizations is finally coming all the way full circle. This is great.
Man.
Thanks for this
Certainly
opportunity.
Full circle. Sir, I'm excited for you to be here. And for those who don't know, you were behind the idea of taking Spread Love, all the concept that I had, into like something bigger, and it became a podcast. So I owe you that. I'm really excited to have you here.
I will never forget that day. I think it was the middle to end stages of the pandemic. And like many people during the pandemic, I listened to a zillion podcasts and was listening to one on innovation and following the talents that you have and taking the special gifts that you have and doing something with it. And I got thinking, I'm like, Naji should have listened to this. And I think I had texted you and said, hey, let's catch up. And I'm sure you came on and thought, we were going to talk about something work related. And we just started brainstorming and then this came about. And then to see what you've done with it, I'm pretty proud of you. This is great.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, it's been an incredible journey now. 4 years. Who would have said?
Yeah.
It's been 162 episodes and 4 years. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But today is about you. I'd love first to start with a question I'm sure you enjoy and like about you, your personal story. What drove you to healthcare, to pharma, and now, like after several years of experience, you've done a doctorate in leadership and organizational innovation. Tell me a little bit more about you.
Sure. Yeah. So I'll hit on my personal story and professional story. But first, I have to do a disclaimer at the request of my employer, for fair balance here. So anything that I'm talking about, the contents and views expressed here are my own and do not represent the views of my employer, Eli Lilly and Company. So now we have the legal part out of the way and can jump into this. If I'm looking at the story and I were to, just kind of sum it up in one sentence, I'd say, I'm just a kid from Maine. And I'd love to, go and trademark that. But there's a company in Maine that's actually already done that. It's Catalyst for Change. And first off, and I guess another disclaimer, I'm not involved with this company. I have no financial interest in this company. But it's a cool group in Maine. And they make, shirts and hats and things with sayings like "just a kid from Maine," and I'm like, that is me, and I think it's neat how that group ties into your podcast as servant leadership, because this group donates money from every sale to the Maine Children's Cancer Program and a suicide prevention program in Maine. So it's really cool how that comes together. So yeah, long story short, just a kid from Maine. I was raised, by my maternal grandparents in Down East Maine. And in fact, my wife and I live in the house that I grew up in for the earliest parts of my life. My my name, my first name, comes from my grandfather, my maternal grandfather I was mentioning. He was actually a World War II hero. He served in the European theater in World War II and was awarded 2 Bronze Stars for bravery. He and my grandmother really instilled the values that I have, especially for hard work, no excuses, no complaining, and it shaped me to become the person that I am. I wish everybody could have a grandmother like I had, who was truly so caring and really exemplified to me what unconditional love is. So very blessed that way to have had those two in my life. And as we go through the personal story, the professional story, you'll hear more about my grandmother coming into this. My wife and I have been married for 34 years. We've known each other all our lives. And it's funny, we talk about the grandparents part. The grandparents that I mentioned and her grandparents actually built a hunting camp together back in the 60s. So when I say my wife and I have known each other all our lives, we really have all our lives and grew up about a mile away from each other. We're blessed with 2 wonderful adult children, just gifted individuals doing great with their lives, and have 2 amazing, wonderful grandchildren as well, and in my free time, when seriously I'm not geeking out over trying to uncover the latest trends in leadership and how I could, build a better mousetrap in being a leader. I love being outdoors, love fishing, any type of freshwater fishing I'll be involved in, and we still live here, like I said, in Maine, which is one of the best parts in the world to live if you like to do those things. Yeah.
It certainly is. And so what drove you to pharma? Like, how did you end up in pharma? And then, we will certainly delve more into the leadership aspect of it. Mm-hmm. Why the healthcare industry?
Yeah, I started off in when I was in college, undergraduate degree in psychology. So I wanted to help people. I wanted to be involved in that. As I mentioned, my grandmother was a driving force in my education, and my uncle and my cousin were already medical doctors. And so her assumption to me was, guess what? You're going to be a doctor too. And when it came to blood, for example, or just, what it's like in being involved with being a medical doctor, that wasn't what was best for me. So I said, well, Graham, I'll be a psychologist instead. I'll still be able to be in healthcare and help people. And she's like, okay, yeah, that's good. So went on and got a master's degree in counseling, and was a psychotherapist for a number of years. And after I finished my master's degree, I decided, well, I'm going to take a little break. So I told my grandmother, hey, I'm going to pause, this pursuit of becoming a doctor. And she was, let's just say, upset, and said, okay, but you've got to promise me you need to become a doctor one day. And I said, yes, I promise. And so I worked, thinking I was going to become a clinical psychologist, and found that it wasn't where my passion was. I don't know. I just eventually came to understand that there were other things that I was more interested in healthcare, from a more of a business standpoint. And so I was really struggling with my career, figuring out what am I going to do? And so my wife said, well, based on, what you do as a therapist and being a halfway decent active listener, why don't you go into pharmaceutical sales? I'm like, I don't know if that's for me. And she's like, yeah, I think you should do that. Give it a try. So I begrudgingly tried, decided to come to Lilly. And fortunate enough that they took a chance on me, like I said, nearly 24 years ago, and was able to go in and start selling in primary care sales for neuroscience. So having worked in mental health, it was a good transition in working in Lilly's neuroscience portfolio. So at that time, I was able to really combine it and put that into work. And that's the story of really how did I get to pharmaceuticals and healthcare at Lilly.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing this part of your life. And truly, you wanted to be a doctor, you promised that, and you are now. So, and that's part of also a piece of you that always inspired me. I remember when we first started discussing about you thinking about it, and then you did it successfully. So I'm intrigued because it's leadership, and you said like you geek on leadership and the new trends, and you've been in different part of the organization, led teams throughout different places. Is there kind of like a leadership experience or trait or something specific throughout that intrigued you to a level where you're like, okay, I'm going to study it. I'm going to do a doctorate of leadership and organizational innovation. Like what really triggered that inside you?
It's an innate curiosity. Always wondering, how could we tweak something? How could we change something to be able to bring out the best in people? And then how do we replicate it? And then the more you're replicating it, how do we take it and then improve it even more? And so for me, the leadership aspect of it was being able to dig deeper and better understand the theories that are out there, the history behind the theories, how they were developed, and then the innovation part, the balance between risk and reward, deciding what are you going to take a chance on changing, what would be the impact of the changes that you make, who's going to benefit, who will benefit the most from it, the stakeholder analysis that goes into it. It was there were a lot of similarities in that to being a Lean Six Sigma black belt at Lilly. So you're able to dig into the analysis of what are the soft skills that you're changing. And I know one of your former guests talks about how there aren't really soft skills and renamed those, and it was an amazing podcast. But that kind of sums it up and ties it together there. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things as you were saying about being Six Sigma, soft skills, etc. And we talked in one of the episodes about calling them smart skills instead of stuff. But you're a servant leader. I know it. It's not just you saying it. And really part of what you've done, and I would love to go more into your research actually that you worked through the past years and dissertation. There's always this piece where if you're more analytical, data-driven, Six Sigma type of leader, then the soft is soft and we don't care about. But we discussed about this quite a bit where you and I do not believe in that. Like we believe in the end. So tell me a little bit more about your thinking about that, and also part of your research, I'm sure, touches this too.
Yeah, absolutely. So the research I did was, it was entitled, Leading for Sustained Success, how a supervisor's leadership style affects employee engagement in pharmaceutical sales professionals. And I wanted to look specifically at periods of varied sales performance. So if you look at any type of industry, regardless if it's sales or not, there are ups and downs. And are leaders consistent? do their employees want them to be consistent? What are they looking for? So it started as a very big question. And I set it up. The study was qualitative. And, it was a phenomenological approach. So, you always want to do research that hopefully someone will come after you and say, hey, this looks neat. Let's take it and try to replicate it, or let's do it in a different style, such as quantitative. So hopefully, someone will hear this and do that. But it's wondering, can the concept of leadership really start to be seen as the science aspect versus the art aspect of it? And as I started digging in, there were 3 research questions that kind of drove the study. And the first one was, what type of leadership styles or behaviors are most common during each period of varied sales performance, according to or as perceived by pharmaceutical sales professionals? And the first thing that really was an aha was when I say, hey, what's your leadership style? If you say that to somebody, a lot of times you're going to hear about what are the behaviors they have and demonstrate as a leader. But you don't always hear, hey, I'm a servant leader. I'm a transformational leader. Actually, I'm a transactional leader. And so in digging through this, there was a lot of misunderstanding. And during the interviews I did with the subjects, I found that there was only one whose leader had told them specifically, hey, I am a transformational leader. All the others, basically, I don't know what type of leadership style my leader has. They could tell me the behaviors, but they couldn't tell me a specific style. Now, is that a big deal? Is it monumental? Probably not, but to me, I think there needs to be a central foundation that you adopt as a leader. That is your North Star. And it doesn't mean that you can't adapt the behaviors you have as a leader to the individual, each individual that works with you. I mean, as a servant leader, you get to know who your people are, what motivates them, what do they love. And you don't change to different styles based on, you don't have to change your foundation based on that. So that was the first research question, and one of the interesting things that kind of popped up as we were going through it. And then looking at how do changes in the supervisor's leadership style or behaviors affect pharmaceutical sales professionals' engagement when the performance varies. The third research question was which leadership style or behaviors provide positive engagement when sales performance does and doesn't meet sales quota. And then I actually had an unexpected result. So sometimes when you're doing research, things just pop out that you didn't expect. And I did have a interview question, not a research question, but an interview question where I said, hey, are there any factors beyond your supervisor's leadership style or behaviors that affect your engagement during periods when you are and are not meeting quota? And I'll go back to some of the other findings here, but this just really stood out. And a majority of the participants said, yeah, my level of teamwork I have with my coworkers and sometimes my direct partner really influence my engagement, sometimes even more than what my supervisor does. And so when you look through the study that I did, some of the things you would say, hey, yeah, okay, that makes sense. I'm not shocked by some of what you're sharing there, but to take it a step deeper and say, all right, well, what are we doing if we already know this? So we're learning that, and we know that there's this incredible effect on engagement based on the relationship you have with your coworkers, the collaboration. But how much do we actually do with that? Hey, if someone has a problem, two coworkers aren't working well together. Yeah, we have these great plans that we'll put together. But how much are we taking advantage of the fact that we know this is a variable that we can influence? How much time are we training our leaders? How much time are we spending with coworkers to teach them how to really truly be great teammates, how to be great partners from a business standpoint as well as just a relational standpoint? And do we do that consistently over time? Yeah. We could say, yeah, we had a workshop on that when they went through training, or we did a 1 hour workshop at a meeting. But truly, is that enough? Is that really what's going to take an advantage, give us an advantage for our people and make them more engaged? I think we could do better. I think we could all do a lot better there.
Yeah, I love this one because it's basically also taking it as a leader, once you develop those skills, to ensure that you create an environment where people know how to collaborate and love collaborating and enjoys being with one another, right? Like it's also like for you as a teammate and for you as a leader to create those environments, right? Because it's a lot in leadership. I'm not sure if you've seen that also in your research. I'd be intrigued, but I believe a lot in the ecosystem you build and as a leader around you, right? For your people to thrive, and how you build this culture and this environment for everyone to be at their best. So did you touch on some of those aspects, or have you seen this in the research, especially on this engagement part in the ups and downs?
Yeah, so I saw I looked more into that aspect of it in the relationship between the supervisor and the sales representative. And, as I said with the first research question, the sales professionals weren't really sure what the leader's style was. They could describe the behaviors, but what their actual style was and what drove them, what was the foundation of it, they weren't sure. Believe it or not, when the sales fluctuated, so did the behaviors. And some of the
surprise.
Yeah, total surprise. And sometimes it worked out well. Sometimes the changes produced worse engagement. So, factors that were really driving, the positive results, the positive engagements, related around active listening, empathy. So EQ was a definite part. And then being able to roll up your shirt sleeves and get in there with your people and work together to make the change. It reminded me of the old leadership saying that you hear where leaders tell their people, don't come to me with problems, come to me with solutions. And those were the type of behaviors that led to negative engagement. But the leaders that said, come to me with your problems, let's sit down together and try to find out a solution, that led to positive engagement. I think that the recognition that was there is extremely important to drive the engagement, recognition of those that are overcoming the barriers, that are dealing with circumstances that are outside of their control. Environments change. And there, when the environment changes, it doesn't mean you as a professional are not working as hard, or your skills aren't as sharp, or you're not as committed. Most of those times people are working even harder to try and overcome that. So that recognition, the acknowledgement, strong EQ, especially active listening and empathy, really were some of the things that drove the level of engagement that the sales professionals were feeling.
after your research, your journey, your amazing experience across different jobs and even the psychology piece, I always learn from something new about you when I meet with you, man. But really, across all of those, is there an advice you would give your younger self as you started being like first time manager, first time leading a team?
Oh, yeah, we could a whole lot. And I would say, Basil, sit down. We have a lot to talk about. When I was first trained in leadership, and when I first became a supervisor at Lilly, I was, cautioned to not, I would say, get too close to people. So it was the true traditional transactional style of leadership. And now where am I? In my opinion, the opposite end of that spectrum as a servant leader. And so I would say, here's why servant leadership is the way to pursue your style. This is the approach that needs to be your North Star. That the ability to help people outside of their job is a gift. To understand the power that an employer has, the effect that it has on their employees' lives outside of work is tremendous. The amount of time they spend at work, the effect that has on someone's physical and emotional well-being, it's an incredible responsibility, and to be first and foremost so much aware of that. And I take it to be similar to what you had to do when you graduated from medical school and took the Hippocratic Oath. Do no harm. That is what I would definitely tell myself if I had the opportunity to go back and start all over again. And then go back to some of the people I first managed and apologize for not being a very good leader. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but what you said is, I think a lot about it. You said something really powerful that few managers, as we start, think of, right? The impact that you have on people's lives. Not only growing them professionally, but as you very well stated, it's beyond that, right? Like, how do they live in interaction they have with you? Are
Tremendous responsibility.
Are they depressed? Are they happy?
Yeah.
Do they feel better? Like, at some point, you and I discussed this, but like having this framework in your head, like I want every interaction to end up in a way where people feel good about themselves, even if it's a very tough, crucial conversation about performance.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I love how you framed it, because, yeah, we have a huge responsibility as managers of people, and we all lived different managers, right? And so their impact on ourselves. So I'm fascinated, like, how we don't sometimes think about it like, yeah, like if I suffered from this, I shouldn't probably replicate it. Right?
Yeah. There needs to be a very serious conversation for anybody when they begin their journey in leadership around the impact that they are going to have and how powerful that is. It doesn't matter where you are, what industry, what level, but when you get into that, you need to be prepared and accept that responsibility. You need to have a great system around you to keep you grounded. When we look at EQ, I was attending a talk the other day about leadership, and the presenter was discussing EQ and said, as a leader, you need to be open to feedback. And I completely agree. You need to be open to feedback, but more importantly, you need to seek out feedback, seek out diverse feedback. Don't go to the people that, are know you well and will, that you see things similarly. It's not going to be helpful for you, and it's not going to be helpful for your people. So you absolutely need to get that feedback loop in there very strong.
Yes. You're touching so many different things we're both passionate about, right? Like taking feedback, it's humility also of accepting it, acting on it, the diversity in those feedback, certainly. I'm going to go to a section you know very well, where I'm going to give you a word and I want a reaction to it. And the
Absolutely.
first one we've been discussing quite a bit, but I always love to start with this. It's leadership.
Okay. So for me, when I first hear leadership, I default to what's the definition of leadership, and then through the program, one of the authors of our most impactful textbooks was Peter Northouse, and based on what I learned there, I see the definition as influencing others through kindness, empathy, candor, and accountability to achieve results. I think he would boil it down probably more basic, where it's, could almost be influencing others to achieve results. Another great definition of leadership I heard from an amazing leader I worked for once was leadership is love with discipline. That sound familiar?
Oh, man.
Yeah, love with discipline. But again, it's interesting. If you were to sit down with 10 different people and ask them, what's your definition of leadership? Just how different the responses could be. Is that good? Is that bad? I don't know. Maybe. But I would say, look at, do you have actually a definition of it? You know it when you see it, but can you define it? And to have that definition. So I think people forget that with servant leaders, that there still is accountability. You call it discipline. That needs to be there, but you want to create an environment where people are okay when that difficult or crucial conversation comes up. They're okay with it. The best of the best will be looking for it. But for you as a leader, you have to do a lot of work to make sure your team is ready for that and want to do that. But yeah, when you say, all right, what comes to mind? When you say leadership, I default to the definition, and your definition stuck with me. I adapted. I had a few changes, but love the discipline. It's your style. It's direct. It's simple but effective. I love it.
Oh, thanks. That means a lot. The second one is performance.
I think, wow, I wasn't anticipating that one. You got me there. So performance is the discipline. It is the accountability. It's your scorecard. I think people could say, hey, you know what? I'm not a competitive person, but you still want to do the best in aspects of your life, I would hope. So performance, it certainly is something that it varies. I have to say that based on my research. And you need to be prepared for the changes that come with changes in performance.
What about Nexus?
Nexus. I love that one. A lot of people aren't as in tune. So in some ways that's an inside joke, but Nexus, that catalyst for change that comes in, and the pinnacle of where greatness is. Absolutely. Got me again, old friend. You got me again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was, like, for the listeners, that was the name of our team. This is part of it. The last one is spread love in organizations. Yeah,
I think I'm gonna stump you on or surprise you on this one. And for me, spread love in organizations is challenging the status quo. It is, if we look at how do you know? How would you measure if there is love in your organization? My bias, employee engagement. Is it important? No, it's crucial. It's critical. It's the lifeblood. You have to have the love there. So if it's so important, then why the heck isn't it a performance measurement, a KPI for companies? If you're giving your quarterly earnings report to Wall Street, you're talking about, what those earnings are. Why aren't you also saying, guess what? Here's our employee engagement score. I don't care. It doesn't have to be a company that's on Wall Street. It could be any business, any nonprofit, any organization out there. If they were to publish what their employee engagement score is, how would that impact the performance of the company? I think it would dramatically increase it. You're shopping for any type of service, and you can see what the employee engagement score is. Where are you going to go? And I would love to see finally some quantitative data that shows, or more, in a way that people will finally act on, that shows here's the company's employee engagement score, here is their performance. Because we talk a lot about the importance of employee engagement, but where do the things like training leaders continually on EQ, collaboration skills, all of those things that affect it, where do they appear in the shuffle of what's getting done at the company and where the company spends their time? It's not. I think a lot of times it's just not there, because people are saying, well, I know that if I pull this lever, I'm going to see this change in performance, whether it could be in any situation. But so for me, to spread love in organizations right now in this world, it is to challenge the status quo, because there's not enough of it out there. Am I right or am I wrong?
Man, I'm biased, so so which side I will take. I love it, and I love how you're framing it. Any final word of wisdom, Basil, for healthcare leaders around the world?
Yeah, I would challenge all of the leaders you've had. So over, about 160 or so leaders that you've had on your podcast, to honestly go back and seek feedback. How have you spread love in your organization since you've been a guest on Naji's show? How have you taken your future leaders, your talent pipeline, sat down with them and said, let's talk about spreading love in an organization. What does that mean? I'll remember, one of the things you said to our leadership team when we were discussing diversity, equity, and inclusion. You said, we need to get to the point where DEI is in our DNA. Well, the spread love in organizations concept needs to be in the curriculum for future leaders. And if everyone on if every one of your guests, all of us, were to go back and say, okay, give me feedback. How am I doing this? How can I get better doing it? We'd get wonderful, innovative ideas from incredible people that would drive the engagement. And guess what? Help more customers, help more patients, help the people that we serve every day, because that's what we do. We serve others. Those are my final thoughts, my friend.
Well, my friend, thank you so much for being with me today. I more than enjoyed it. I miss working with you, but who knows what the future holds.
You never know. Things keep coming full circle.
Thanks again for being with me today, Basil. It was a great chat.
Thank you, Dr. Gehchan. Appreciate you.
Thanks for listening to the show. For more episodes, make sure to subscribe to spreadloveio.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. Let's inspire change together and make a positive impact in healthcare, one story at a time.